You are listening to the In the Mouth of Dorkness podcast. Here are Brad, Lisa, Brian, and Darren.
Welcome to another edition of the It Modcast podcast. Joining us is Brian Young, the Turtle Dork.
Happy Friday, folks.
And also joining us is Lisa Gullickson, wife Dork.
Alrighty then.
Yeah, and Brad Gullickson, mouth Dork.
Guys, we saw the Avengers last night.
And we live to tell the tale.
Who cares about this episode? Why are you listening? Put us on pause. Watch Avengers again.
Because guess what?
War.
I guarantee you, while you're listening to this episode, we're in the theater rewatching Avengers Infinity War.
I just was not expecting them to drop Rocket Raccoon into that jet engine. Winter Soldier, what are you doing?
But this comic, so he'll come back probably, maybe.
In a lot of pieces.
Because you didn't see him, like, come out of it, so it doesn't mean he's dead.
And
he just blew up.
I love how Groot returned the favor by putting just Raccoon's tail.
Oh, yeah, that was cute.
In the jar, with hopes that he would grow a new rocket.
That's cute.
Sad.
But it makes sense, though.
Yeah.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, if you want a frame of reference for what we're talking about, you have to go see that movie. Now, for those of you who already seen it and you're waiting in line and you need something to listen to rewatch it again, this is our Fistful of Infinity Stones. I'm sorry. This is our Fistful Friday, a gauntlet full of Infinity Stones.
Yes.
Ooh. And what is a gauntlet full of Infinity Stones, you may ask? Well, we're going to take each of the Infinity Stones or gems, the Space Stone, the Mind Stone, the Reality Stone, the Power Stone, and the Time Stone, also the Soul Stone. And we're going to each do our top, 6 movies that have something to do with each one of these stones.
This was Darren's brilliant idea. Whenever it's my brilliant idea, which is most of the time what our Fistful is. But this was Darren's idea, and it's fucking great. I'm super excited about this.
Thank you. Let's see how excited Brian is. Brian, you're number 6. So we're not even going to do numbers. We're just going to say, I'm just going to go by stone name, okay? So for the Space Stone, what's your pick? What movie associated with Space Stone do you have?
Well, for space, I wanted to do a movie that was actually set in space.
Ooh.
Outer space.
Clever.
I know. But wait till you hear my pick.
Oh, shit, son.
Wait. Hold
It's Hawk the Slayer.
Hold the applause.
Actually, I don't think that's set in space.
No, there's a griffin that's in space for
I told you guys that I'm not that well versed in selecting films, so this is a more recent film. But this is a film that takes place majority in space. It is the film Gravity.
Nice. I've never seen Gravity. I'm good.
You can't see it. It's an invisible force. That's because of the rotation of the Earth.
It's a law, and I follow it.
Oh, okay, yes.
With Sandra Bullock and George Clooney.
This over Star Wars or
that's obvious.
This over
Yeah.
Roger Corman.
No. I want to pick something that actually dealt with actual outer space.
Not like that fake Star Wars
Battle
space.
Beyond the Stars deals with real space.
I'm talking
space
about
titties
as far
on the ship, everything.
Yeah, not just you know what I mean. Just space.
Keep it simple.
Keep it very simple. Space. Okay. This is the movie where I guess they're out on the space station and it gets hit by a meteor shower and she gets stranded out in space, trying to get back within the Earth's gravity pulls to find a way back to Earth. And I've just found this film really, really compelling to watch, and I loved watching. I mean, compare it to a lot of the one-man survival films like
Castaway,
The Martian, I Am Legend, those films like that, where you get to see a lot of these A-list stars really get to
be alone
and just kind of show off a little bit of their acting chops by really trying to just portray characters in a different way, and Sandra Bullock was able to do that to a degree, and I don't know, I found it to be kind of thrilling.
Have you watched it at home? I've only seen it in the theater.
Maybe once. I have it on Blu-ray.
Okay.
So I saw it in the theater.
That doesn't mean you've watched it at home.
No. Like when I bought it, I watched it. So I've probably seen it twice, once in the theater and once home. The 3D experience was really, really, I really enjoyed it in the theater. But yeah, it's not a film I've gone back to revisit. But I'd be interested to go back and revisit it.
You should. I know, Brad. You just weren't not a fan of that film.
I know
right?
you didn't
No,
really like it.
did not like it.
It's crazy. Have you rewatched it?
No, because why?
Well, you know what? When I bring the VR headset, so Lisa and I we can play the game.
Yeah.
I'm gonna bring the gravity disc so you can see it.
And
in
then I
3D.
can watch it in 3D.
It's like you mentioned in our MCU Phase 3
Yeah, I
review.
mean, I
cast
saw it
with,
in
Doctor
3D.
Strange.
I saw it in IMAX 3D.
You didn't
was,
like?
It was gorgeous. It was a great technical feat.
You just don't.
I
Like
just
the
did not
characters?
care.
Oh, okay. All right.
Brad Heartless.
Dang.
I like that shot at the end. Spoilers for Gravity, where she lands on Earth in that
Trying to
low angle
walk.
shot.
Yeah.
I like that a
that.
lot.
Yeah.
I thought that was extremely effective. I just her plight. I just didn't engage with.
Yeah.
He doesn't give a bullock for Sandra Bullock.
I do not give a Bullock. Guys, this sake is really hitting me.
Yeah, I love
Yeah.
it. All right, Lisa, your pick for space, the Space Stone.
Well, so the Space Stone is the Tesseract, and the Tesseract is used as a portal between space. So, because Loki uses it to infiltrate S.H.I.E.L.D. and come to Earth and just be a general asshole. So I decided to go with the 1994 classic Stargate.
Oh, I was gonna say,
Yeah.
I was gonna say Time Bandits didn't come out then. But
I've
yes.
never seen Time Bandits.
I
So,
know.
there
I
you
know.
go.
I know.
But the Stargate
Yes.
is used by James Spader
Yeah, it is.
and Kurt Russell.
I introduced this movie to you.
Yes, you did. This is early in our dating.
Can I tell you something?
Career.
I've never seen the whole thing.
Oh, really?
I've seen maybe like 10 or 15 minutes.
You've seen
of
the
it.
desert parts?
It's like, this is bullshit. I stopped watching. I've never seen Stargate past like the first act. So yeah, okay. So
It's fun.
what happens in it that it correlates to?
Oh, well-
just the fact that it has that.
Yeah, it's a gate, and they use it, and they go to outer space where.
Oh, do they?
Yeah.
Oh.
Like there's like an Egypt in space. Like
Oh.
so
Space
what
Egypt.
happened is like the Stargate was created in ancient Egypt, and then Ra was actually like an alien who came to Earth, and he kidnapped a bunch of Egyptians and took them to his like little desert planet.
You've read National Enquirer. You know the deal.
So he uses these Egyptians to like mine ore, and he also like uses their life force to continue living. And James Spader is just being super handsome. And
Of course, he
Kurt
is.
Russell,
that's right,
the film opens up with a suicidal, he's basically Riggs from Lethal Weapon. His son has died, and he's ready to shuffle off this mortal coil. And then he gets like the alert. The military needs his skills.
Yeah.
He's got to babysit baby Spader.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I might check that out. Probably not.
it's fine.
I like it.
It's fun.
I'm a fan.
You have a soft spot for Stargate?
Yeah,
Okay.
they brought Clydesdale horses out to the desert and dressed them as like these bantha-like creatures. These poor Clydesdales. You watch Stargate and you realize that this is the end of a certain style of fantasy filmmaking.
Yeah.
Because from here on out, it's all CGI.
Yeah.
Okay, but wait, there's more.
Uh-oh.
So I'm so excited about Infinity War that one fistful is not enough. So I'm doing a sub fistful,
Okay.
sub gauntlet-full.
Lisa loves her sub gauntlets.
And I've managed to put together a list that is entirely Jim Carrey movies. So my Jim Carrey space film is Earth Girls Are Easy.
Yes, that also has the Grandmaster in it.
That's right.
Yes.
Jeff Goldblum.
All right, good pick.
At their sexiest, I must say. I would watch that on a old Comedy Central.
Was it young
So
Gina
good.
Davis
Yes.
and Damon Wayans is also in
Yep.
that movie. I gotta
So
go back and
good.
rewatch that movie. Was nuts.
That movie is nuts, but I loved it.
I'm due for a rewatch.
I'm not used to it without commercials. That's how long it's been since I've seen it, but I really enjoyed it.
That's a great pick.
Thank you.
Brad,
Yes?
your pick for the Space Stone.
So I'm with Brian on this. I wanted to go like proper space, and when I think of like a proper space movie, I think
Event Horizon.
no.
Oh, this is the most obvious pick that Brad's ever picked. If you don't pull this one, Darren, then you do not know Brad.
2001.
Yes,
correct.
of course.
Yeah. Yay!
Just see how I was
What
looking
an
at Brad's
intense test. Darren, I wish you could have seen his face. He's like, "Oh no, my friendship's on the line."
I felt like I was in the Deer Hunter. Like, oh
Yeah.
shit, I'm gonna get this right.
Yeah, 2001: A Space Odyssey.
Yeah.
It is all about man's desire to evolve and to reach beyond, the humble rock that we are given. And this is a film where, I haven't done this on Twitter. On Twitter right now, everybody's like doing the film struck for.
Yeah.
Yes.
And like several years ago, we did a Fistful of Influences.
Yes.
Back in the Omega Dork days.
Yay! Shout out to that dude.
And the Omega Dork maybe even selected this movie 2001 for his influence. I didn't, but it's a film that when I was in high school and I saw it, I was like, I don't get, why does everybody, who cares about Stanley Kubrick? What's the big deal about this movie? I just didn't understand it. And then in college, I pretended to like 2001 because all the smart people like 2001.
Yeah.
And then in, my 20s, I was like, I finally saw it on the big screen. I saw it at the AFI Silver, like when I was like 26.
Yeah.
And I was like, damn, this is how this film should be experienced.
Yeah.
When you go beyond the infinite, you need to see that in, the widest screen possible.
Yeah.
And I fell in love with it from a technical standpoint.
Yeah.
1968, this is its 50th anniversary. It just celebrated.
Yep.
And I've now watched 2001 like 3 or 4, maybe even 5 times in the theater, thanks to the AFI and the Alamo Drafthouse and the Angelica. And it's a film that I now really do consider as like a true influence on how I approach art, but also the philosophy where it's coming from.
Yeah.
I want to aspire to what Kubrick was doing and what Arthur C. Clarke were doing with this movie.
Yeah.
And it's such a rich experience.
I'm looking forward to catching it theatrically. I
Yeah.
haven't seen it in the cinema.
It's unlike anything else.
I'm looking forward to that. All right, great pick. My pick for the Space Stone or Gem, whichever you choose. Yes, Brian has gravity, and Brad is going beyond the infinite. But I'm looking to go, instead of outer space, I'm going into inner space for my pick. That's Joe Dante's 1987 classic.
Darren, I also thought about doing that. It's such a great pick. Oh my God.
Great minds think alike. We have a young, sexy Dennis Quaid. We have a beautiful Meg Ryan. This was when I was crushing on her so hard. And we have Ed Grimley himself, Mr. Martin Short, who plays like a store clerk, and he gets Dennis Quaid injected into him. Dennis Quaid is part of this experiment where he's miniaturized and then injected into Martin Short's body. And in all sorts of science fiction, hilarity, and hijinks ensue. Man, this was a staple in my home, whether it be on HBO or once I got it on VHS. I would watch this movie all of the time. Like him hopping in that red Mustang at the end, to Twisting the Night Away. Like I could still remember those closing credits. Just him on his way to like his next adventure. And I don't know, they don't make movies like this anymore. Speaking of I'm not comparing this movie to 2001 or anything else, but they don't make movies like this. And if they do, please point me into the direction. But Joe Dante, like what he was able to do with his films, whether it be Gremlins or something like this, or not Enemy Mine. God damn.
Explorers.
Explorers, yeah. Like there's this sense of adventure, and granted, you do have that sense of that he's going to. I think his name was Tuck. He called himself Tuck. Tuck Pendleton. Yeah, he and Tuck Pendleton. Jack Putter going on his adventure, but having that take place inside of his body, and how Martin Short was dealing with Dennis Quaid's relationship to Meg Ryan's character, him being the in-between guy.
This is one of my all-time favorite movies.
Yeah, it's so good.
And, to tie it into our MCU Phase 3 review cast, which we did earlier in the week, one of the appeals about the Marvel Universe is how you have these fallible heroes.
Yes.
And Tuck is such a jerk at the beginning of that film. He's
Yeah.
a real scumbag of a human being.
Yeah.
And his emotional growth is just as compelling as him fighting some tiny little robot inside the body of Martin Short.
Yeah, and I like that it took someone like Jack Putter, who is not this outward character, not this full of ego and bravado, but it took someone like him. But in forming and helping Tuck Pendleton realize the error of his ways and grow as a person, Jack also grows as going from being someone who's introverted to someone who has the courage to stand up and do things, and I like that.
And it comes from that style of storytelling where the names are their personalities, like Tuck Pendleton, Jack Putter. Oh my God, perfect.
Yeah. So I love this film. I do not own this on Blu-ray. That is a crime.
Yeah, neither do I.
That needs to change. In the meantime, we're going to go.
You need to own it in that crazy 3D with your glasses.
Oh my goodness. That'd be awesome. You're right. Yes. So the next stone is the Mind Stone. Brian, what do you have? What's your pick for this film?
This is the one I struggled with, which is a movie that is not. It's not highly revered. Actually, I think a lot of people actually really dislike this film. I don't know how you guys feel about this film, but The Mind Stone, I wanted to deal with a movie that dealt with the mind, that dealt with kind of the insanity of the mind.
The Cell.
No. That's a good choice. I should have thought. Well, I've never seen that movie, so.
Really?
It's not that good, Darren.
I'm talking about the Vincent D'Onofrio, not the John Cusack.
I know.
Oh,
like I kept thinking about the movie Shutter Island, but I've only seen bits and pieces of it. But I was thinking something like that.
That was pre-Brian's watching horror movie days.
Yeah.
Shutter Island.
So I went with the next best thing, Sucker Punch.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yes.
Did not think I'd see that on a Fistful anytime.
That could that would be a good one for Reality Stone too.
I got a pretty good one for reality, but the Mind Stone. So
that movie, that's a tragedy movie. That's a tragic film. Like
it's just tragic to watch. Like after you watch it, you're just like, why did I do that to myself?
Yeah, and so we have an early Oscar Isaac in this film.
Baby Isaac.
Yeah, early in his career, which I kind of like, and I like the cast of characters with all the women that are in this asylum, and they have to really kind of go into this other reality in their mind to really just kind of deal with trying to put this plan together to try to escape.
Really, they're going to this other place so to not have to be present while they're being sexually exploited.
Yeah.
Which is the dark part of that freaking film.
Yeah. So I don't know, and I mean, again, this is Zack Snyder. Zack Snyder gets a lot of shit from a lot of fanboys and a lot of movie fans for some of his takes on films, and not really having much story and just focusing on the visuals. This does have some pretty nifty visuals. But I don't know. I think it's an interesting story. The movie doesn't work wholly all that well, but it's still kind of fun to watch. I haven't revisited it in a while, but. Yeah, Sucker Punch.
All right.
Mind Stone.
I think I know what Lisa's going to be. If she picks it, I got an audible. So, Lisa, what's your pick for the Mind Stone?
I'd be shocked if you picked this movie because it is the 1996 film Matilda.
Oh, no. I was going to say Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind.
That's my Jim Carrey pick.
Okay.
That's my Jim Carrey pick.
Great mind think alike. Okay.
That's right. So, but the movie Matilda, like when I think of Matilda, I generally think about the book. Like I loved Roald Dahl as a kid. I loved those books.
Yeah.
But it's about this girl who is born super smart. By 3 years old, she's taught herself to read, but she has super shitty parents. Who are played by Danny DeVito and Rhea Perlman in the movie. So classic. But, like, they have these parents who are like, you're our daughter and therefore do not deserve to be able to read. You don't deserve to be educated. And so she plays tricks on her parents to make their life so miserable that they finally send her to school. And then when she's sent to school, she's sent to this horrible school with this evil principal, Mrs. Trunchbull.
I remember a kid getting spun around by their pigtails. Am I making that shit up?
No, you're not. Yeah. Mrs. Trunchbull.
She was the one doing it?
I'm pretty sure. I'm trying to piece this together. It's been many years.
I think it was her.
Yeah, and she would put these kids in like this Iron Maiden thing. It's fucked up. But the Mind Stone part of it is because Matilda is this like genius and her talent is not being tapped. She all of this like all of that brain energy starts giving her telekinetic powers. So she can she picks up a piece of chalk and writes on a chalkboard. She can move shit with her mind. So that's why I thought of her for the Mind Stone.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Great pick.
Thank you.
Brad.
I need to rewatch that movie.
Me too.
It's been a long time.
I've never seen it.
Reread that book. The book is great. It's like hilariously funny. It's like the kind of book that a kid wants to read because it's about a kid who's way smarter than the adults and fucking beats them at their own game. It's so good.
Yeah, it's a great movie too.
And dark. Just like every Roald Dahl book.
All right, B, your pick for the Mind Stone.
Well, this was the first movie that popped into my mind when you suggested this. Yes. I was like, well, Mind Stone's got to be Being John Malkovich.
Yes.
You know, this story of this lowly office worker who discovers a hatch in this office building that leads directly into the consciousness of everyone's favorite actor, John Malkovich, playing himself. And when you travel down the consciousness of John Malkovich, you get to see and experience what Malkovich experiences. And after a little while, he gains control. And he starts inviting other people into Malkovich. Yeah. And they start taking control of this poor, helpless actor. It's been a while since I've watched this movie. I know Criterion put it out not too long ago, and I never picked up that disc, and I need to change that. I think it's time for a revisit. Yeah. But of course, the scene I was really thinking about is towards the climax when where John Cusack and Cameron Diaz are fighting their way through Malkovich's consciousness, and you see young Malkovich as a child and the horrors he faced, and you see, the dining room filled with all the Malkovich. So Mind Stone, it's got to be Being John Malkovich. I'm sorry to Brian and Lisa for not selecting the perfect choice.
I had kind of a weird experience with that film because that film came out in 1999. I did not see it in the theater.
Who directed that? Spike Jonze, right?
Spike Jonze from, to tie off of Lisa's film, from the writing of Charlie Kaufman in Eternal Sunshine.
Yeah, which is my pick for the Mind Stone.
Oh, nice.
What was your weird experience, Lisa?
Oh, yeah, but anyway, I was I had just watched High Fidelity, and I was totally obsessed with John Cusack, so I watched all of John Cusack's movies.
Oh, yeah.
And so finally, remember in 9th grade, I was not allowed, so this would be 10th grade, I guess. I was not allowed to watch, rated R movies or anything like that. And so finally I get to Being John Malkovich, and I'm watching it, and I'm like, this movie is too weird and creepy, and I had to turn it off. That was my experience.
Oh, so you never finished it?
No, I've never finished it.
Oh.
Yeah, so sorry, Lisa, for cutting you off so that Darren could cut you off.
Sorry.
That was my fault.
Oh, okay. Sorry, Brad and Lisa.
I've had so much sake.
So my pick for the Mind Stone is Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind.
Nice. I love that movie.
Yeah, it's that's a movie that I came to that movie at a particular point in my life where I found it very relatable. The movie stars Jim Carrey and Kate Winslet as a couple who they're going through their problems, and then Jim Carrey agrees to have this procedure done where the memory of his now ex is taken away from is erased from his mind, and just the visual technique in which that is portrayed, and how these memories are fading, and at the last minute he's regretting and wanting to keep a hold of them because he realizes the importance of these things. Even though there's pain there, there's importance and there's merit and value to those things. And just the idea of going through a breakup and it hurting so bad that you wish you could just take away all memory of that person to alleviate the pain. I've been there multiple times, and to see someone that desperate for relief from the pain, to me, that they would undergo this this weird procedure, just speaks volumes about how much pain that person was in. And I can only equate that to my pain, and seeing that be something that in the throes of those gut wrenching times where I'm sobbing because of the breakup. I would probably choose that to remove the memory as a way of some type of relief, because back in the days when I was going through my breakups, man, those were horrible. So I always like that the visual aspect of that Michel Gondry uses to convey that. And just the story. I love Jim Carrey and Kate Winslet's their relationship and their chemistry in the film. So yeah, if I was going to have a sub pick though, and I'm surprised Brian didn't pick this for mine, I was going to pick Inception. Because I like how that film deals with the subconscious and the mind and stuff. But I think I have a more emotional connection to Eternal Sunshine. So that's going to be my pick for the Mind Stone. All right, Brian, your pick for reality. Is it Reality Bites?
No. But
have you ever seen that?
Probably. I don't know. But going to your last pick, mine's is 500 Days of Summer.
Yay!
Because that movie deals with the reality of falling in and out of love and breakups and all the stuff that I have dealt with in my life. And more probably that's one scene dealing with 500 Days of Summer is the scene where you have expectation versus reality. So that's really what I want to get down to with the reality stone. When your expectation is you think you're going to go to this party and you're going to chum it up with this girl and she's going to be all into you and ignore everybody else. And when the reality is you're sitting by yourself with a drink, looking over the ledge, watching her engage with everybody else except you. That's the reality.
Jesus, Brian. The fuck? All right. Well, great pick. Sorry you had to go there. Lisa.
Yes.
Your reality pick. Hopefully it's a pleasant one.
I'm sorry, nay.
Damn.
It is not. Whenever we talk about reality, shit gets dark. I went with Vanilla Sky, one of my favorite ItMod homeworks, one of my favorite on-air convos with Darren Smith.
Oh my gosh.
If anything runs that machine that keeps Tom Cruise in this crazy dream that becomes a nightmare, it is the ether.
Yeah.
He is in the ether.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
God, that's a great pick.
Everybody should roll back. I know I hated to because I feel like I bring it up periodically, but it's like a sticky film.
Yeah.
It's like a film that really wants you to it just bubbles up in my mind. Like,
Yeah.
ooh, that's a real Vanilla Sky kind of experience. The idea that and it goes to the same themes of Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, where you're just kind of like you're trying to create your own reality. You're trying to. Everybody goes, well, if my life was like this, I would feel this way.
Yeah.
And that's just not the case. Your ideal situation, nothing ever turns out the way that you expect.
Yeah. The truth always fights its way back. And then, yes, that's a great pick. I did not think of that.
Oh,
I did not think of that. I was ashamed. I feel ashamed. That is an amazing pick.
Yeah, and then my Jim Carrey pick is, of course, The Truman Show.
Yay.
Great movie.
Great pick.
Awesome.
All right. B, your pick for the Reality Stone.
So for the Reality Stone, it really a quote from this movie jumped out in my brain, and it's the film that gave this podcast its name. It's In the Mouth of Madness.
Yeah.
And it's when Sam Neill has traveled to Hobbs End in search of Sutter Kane, and he starts to realize that this town is ripped right from the novels of this horror writer, and maybe Sutter Kane is actually writing reality, that he is the author of his existence. And it's that where he's confronting Styles and saying, this is reality, and he's banging on the dresser drawer.
Yeah.
That idea that the life you have is not yours, that you are not only a puppet, but you are just a pawn, is unnerving.
Yeah.
And I think In the Mouth of Madness is one of Carpenter's best films, and I think it was his last great movie. And it's now starting to get some recognition that it did not have in the 90s.
Yeah.
Shout Factory, actually, I think in July, is putting out a new special edition Blu-ray of it, and I'm super excited for that.
All right. Great pick. My pick for reality is a film that I have surprisingly grown to appreciate more as time has gone on. I don't give a shit about the sequels, but The Matrix is a film that I've come to respect. If not for the actual film, but just for its contribution to cinema at that time and what it would go on to inspire, and and how it broadened a lot of people's horizon in regards to the films and the genres that influence the Matrix. But the idea, basically like what you just said, Brad. The idea of that unnerving scenario where there's a possibility that the things that you think are real, that is your normal day to day, are something that's manufactured and artificial. And outside of and to me, that's the most interesting component of the Matrix. I mean, outside of the visual flourishes and the groundbreaking CGI work that was used in that film and the action sequences, I mean, just that idea of of a digital world in this particular digital age that we live in, and with the advent, not even the advent, but the resurgence of virtual reality and people wanting to escapism and things like that, and like Lisa was saying, like you wanting to create your own your own world and your own reality, and like Joey Pance's quote in the sequel film, ignorance is bliss, because he wants to create his own comfortable reality to live in. And
was that in the sequel?
That was in the
Revolution first.
Yeah, I think it's the original.
First? Oh, was it?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Because Joey Pants
that's right.
dies.
That's when he turns.
Yeah,
that's right. When he turns. That's right. So yeah, just that idea that he'd rather live in this artificial reality as opposed to being present in the actual real world, which is not necessarily in an ideal condition in that film. And so I don't know. There are some really interesting concepts going on in that film outside of its filming contributions.
It's been over a decade since I've watched that movie.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't know what pushed me to rewatch those movies a couple months ago, at the end of last year, but I did, and I think I talked about it on my Weekend Dorks when I was doing that. But again, the first film really stuck out to me as far as just those concepts, because going back to look at them for like the wire work and the action sequence, that stuff is dated, but still the concepts behind the films and what they were talking about in regards to technology and our presentation of reality, I think shockingly still apply today.
Having just watched Speed Racer over at the Alamo,
yay, that was the best.
It's like the visual sense of the Wachowskis is just unreal.
It's astonishing. Yeah. That was a great viewing.
Oh my god,
that was so fun.
Good.
Thanks, Brian Loy.
All right, B, what is your pick for the Power Stone?
That would be one we talked about earlier, Masters of the Universe.
Ooh.
I actually have a fond spot. Fond spot. Is that
You can have a fond spot. You're just not allowed to touch it or talk about it.
Oh, okay.
For Masters of the Universe, I really like this film. 87, I think, is when it came out. Yeah, and I remember seeing this as a kid. This is one of those movies that really just kind of stayed with me, regardless of what people think about the film now. It's
great, right?
It's good. I'm glad I'm not the only person that thinks that. But yeah, I mean, Dolph Lundgren, a young Courtney Cox is in there. And,
that guy from Star Trek Voyager is her boyfriend.
Oh,
what?
Yeah. The guy who's the helmsman.
Yeah.
Tom Paris.
And Franklin Langella as Skeletor. And I always wanted that sequel.
Evelyn, Meg Foster.
Oh, man. Oh, I love Meg Foster.
When I saw it, it was like, this is not He-Man the cartoon.
Same.
Yeah.
But now, I don't care.
No, I don't. I mean, I loved everything on Earth. With that little
Gwildor.
Yeah.
Why aren't you Orko Gwildor?
And he's eating the barbecue. I remember that.
So terrible.
And I love all that stuff. The little hoverboard or chase scene at night, whatever that was.
So great.
Yeah. It was cool. It was a cool little film. I love like all the design of like the character design of the villains in there. I don't know. It kind of reminded me of like some of the characters from Star Wars.
Definitely. The stormtroopers are basically Skeletor's army.
True. Retrofitted. Yeah.
True. Yeah. So I don't know. It was just a really, really, really cool movie. I think I have it on Blu-ray. I need to go back and watch that. I haven't seen it in a while. Yeah. So
we saw it at the Alamo last year.
Sure did.
Great screening.
So good.
All right, Wife Dork, your pick for power?
My pick for the Power Stone is the 1983 film Trading Places.
Yeah, that's a great pick.
It is a great pick. A John Landis film. So funny. And it's about... sorry, I'm scrolling through the IMDb and it's not organized in a way that I like. Sorry.
What a bunch of jerks.
But it's about these two muckety mucks who are super fucking rich and bored. And they have this little bet going that they can take two dudes, one rich white dude and one poor black dude, and completely reverse their situation. So they can make the white guy destitute, and then if they give like the black guy opportunities and wealth, that he'll rise to the occasion. Well, one guy says he will, and one guy says he won't. So of course this film stars Dan Aykroyd as Louis Winthorpe and Eddie Murphy as Billy Ray Valentine, and the idea of like I don't know, it's a crazy idea that could have only existed with this cast and could have only existed in 1983.
Is it Jamie Lee Curtis in this
Yep.
one too?
Yes, she plays the hooker with a heart of gold who has her own like situation where she is trying to do a Trading Places with herself, where she's like, yeah, I'm a prostitute now, but you know, I have business ideas and I've got irons in the fire, and this, you know, perhaps this Winthorpe guy can help me get there. So it's about Billy Ray Valentine's rise to power and when he gets that power, what he sees, how it changes him, and how compromised he feels when he finds out that these other people had this kind of hand in their success. And then, of course, the two characters, you know, coming together to kind of get theirs against these two dudes. Yeah. But it really is a really great, fun movie and an interesting thought experiment. Mm-hmm. So, yeah. I don't know. Fun movie. Brad and I just rewatched it not too long ago. So good.
All right. Now, your Jim Carrey pick can be two picks.
My Jim Carrey pick can only be one pick, because that pick is Bruce Almighty.
Wait, he got powers too when he put on the mask in The Mask.
Yeah, but to me, I think I've never seen The Mask one.
What?
And because it scared me as a kid.
Oh.
He was too loud and he's always shouting.
Well, I guess you're right. The power of God, I guess,
you don't get any bigger than that.
But the mask is actually the mask of Loki, the god.
Yeah,
of mischief,
yeah. So that would be more of the reality stone, I would think.
Okay. All right. Your pick B for power. Is it the movie with the power glove in it?
Oh, The Wizard?
The Wizard?
That would have been a great pick, but sadly, no.
No.
When I think power, I think of one person, and I think that person is Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yeah.
And this is a film that I did not see in my youth. I only just recently saw it for the first time, and it also happens to be the first time that Arnold Schwarzenegger was introduced to the world. It's the documentary Pumping Iron.
Yeah.
You know, and that film follows the events around the 1975 Mr. Universe competition, where Schwarzenegger is sort of portrayed as the villain of the piece, and the underdog is Lou Ferrigno. And it's kind of like Rocky IV, you know, where Rocky's out in the woods and he's doing it the natural way, and Schwarzenegger is this titanic, you know, reigning champion who's, you know, pumping more than iron, and super cocky, unbelievably full of himself, thinks he's God's gift to women and everybody, and it's crazy. I'm so glad I did not experience this movie when I was a teenager in love, or when I was not even a teenager, when I was like an 8-year-old in love with Predator and Terminator. Yeah. Because this is not the Schwarzenegger that 8-year-old Brad could have handled.
Yeah. That's a great pick. I have to go back and rewatch that. I haven't seen that it's been a long time,
I think it's on Netflix, or if not Netflix, it's on Amazon Prime.
I hope so. I can check it out.
Yeah.
All right.
I don't know, listeners. You tell me where we can find it.
My pick for the Power Stone is going to be The Wolf of Wall Street, and the power. Most specifically, the power of addiction, and whether it be Jordan Belfort's drug addiction or his addiction to winning and power and money and his ego and the power over people underneath him and over his fellow stockbrokers or whatever. I just love Martin Scorsese's direction of this film. I love Leonardo DiCaprio's portrayal of this despicable human being. Margot Robbie is great in the film. Even Jonah Hill, I love his character in the film. I love the whole cast of the film. I love the way the movie's put together. I just realized that the dude that's in this film is also the assistant guy in Rampage. Sorry, just a random thought that just happened. But anyway, I love the energy of this film and Scorsese's filmmaking, and how he put this movie together and edits this film. And I just find that this character of Jordan Belfort, while despicable, I just find him fascinating, and how we live in a society that would birth someone like this. And so yeah, that's my pick for the Power Stone. All right, Brian, it's time for the Time Stone or Gem. What's your pick?
Well, you already said it earlier, which is Inception.
Nice.
It's not for me. I don't look at it more so with the mind. I look at it as time, because even though it does deal with dreams and the dream state, I think it also deals with how it slows down time, and they really talk about that a lot in the film when you go deeper into these levels of the dream, a dream within the dream, and how a minute becomes an hour can turn into a day, and then when he's down into the oh goodness, what's it called when he's down there with Ken Watanabe?
The subconscious.
Subconscious.
There's some kind of jargon.
Yeah, I forget what it was
The
called.
basement.
Yeah, something like that. The basement,
the brain basement.
But he can get lost down there, and it could be like for an eternity, infinity. But in actuality, when you look at it in reality, it's only been like a couple of hours or whatnot.
Yeah.
So it's interesting just to see how time expands when you're in the dream world. And I just like that idea, because even when you are dreaming, it does feel like time is kind of expanding and everything is a little bit longer. So I like that idea that you're able to kind of really visualize that cinematically. Yeah, Nolan just did an absolutely fantastic job. And again, Inception is probably one of my favorite films, if not my favorite film by Nolan. I love that film.
All right, Wife Dork,
Yes.
your pick for the Time Stone.
I picked Groundhog Day.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, of course.
Okay, man, I didn't think of that one either.
So that idea that he keeps reliving the same day, he has his own little internal Dormammu moment where he has to keep, he has the opportunity to keep redoing one day until he does it absolutely perfectly. And then my Jim Carrey pick is A Christmas Carol.
All right.
Thank you.
Oh yeah, man, I haven't. You know what? I haven't seen that one.
It's great. It is one of my, well, of course, the definitive Christmas Carol is the Muppet Christmas Carol, but it's a great rendition of A Christmas Carol and a good use of that technology.
Okay.
So I think you'll enjoy it. I mean, it's great, and I love the story of A Christmas Carol. I just do.
Same. Good pick. All right. B, your pick for the Time Stone.
Well, since neither Lisa or Brian picked this movie,
Time Rider.
I'm picking it. Well, that was going to be my backup if no one picked this film. But it's Back to the Future.
Of course.
That's got to be
Of
that's
course,
got to be
yeah.
the Time Stone. I actually just watched that this morning.
Yeah.
And rewatched it this morning, and it's crazy how, when you're watching that as a child, how far removed the 1955 feels from 1985. But now that I'm sitting here as a 38-year-old and I go back 30 years and it's 1988, you're like, oh, wow, it's not that different.
Yeah.
But yeah, so, I love McFly's journey of, that opening, that first time we meet his parents and Crispin Glover, his dad, George, he's such a loser. It's painful. And to see, Marty McFly watch his dad be emasculated by Biff in that opening moment, it's like, oh. And then for him to go back in time and see how his dad became his dad, and now he has the ability to, encourage, this person who he once thought of as nothing more than dad, and now he sees, oh yeah, he's a human being.
Yeah.
And he meets his mom, and he goes, oh, huh.
My mom wants to fuck me.
My mom does know about sex.
Oh.
She has parked with a guy. She's parked with multiple guys, apparently. That's no good. But in aiding his father and his mother, and he not only gets them to fall in love, but he manages to encourage George to pursue his dreams. And when he wakes back up in 1985, after all the shenanigans with Doc Brown and the clock tower and the lightning and all that, because of a few encouragements, his dad is a best-selling novelist. He's got a badass truck in the garage instead of that broken down piece of junk.
Yeah.
So,
speaking of movies that they don't make like they used to, that's another one. Even the sequels weren't even like.
I like the sequels, but there's nothing like the original.
Yeah. All right. This was probably one of the hardest ones for me to pick because it was either Time Crimes, Primer, Edge of Tomorrow.
I was expecting Primer.
That was my initial one, but then I thought about Edge of Tomorrow and how much I loved that film. But I ultimately settled on this movie, which kind of piggybacks off of Brian's pick, and it is my favorite Christopher Nolan film, and that is Memento. Because the
good pick.
The perception of time is played with the editing, but also this was also going to be on my reality pick because of how he was fashioning his own reality, that he had not found his wife's killer yet. So he was going to create his own reality that he was going to keep repeating the fact that he has to find this killer because that defined him at that point. But I'm going to use it for the time stone because of how Christopher Nolan, in the same way that he goes into depth into exploring, a visualization of, going into different layers of your dream state and the perception of time within that. He also does something for me that I found visually arresting and fresh at that time in telling the story, from backwards to forwards, but also the way that narrative device is used in relation to the character in the film. It's not just jumbling around scenes and a la Pulp Fiction. I mean, there's a reason why the story is being told that way, and it plays into the main character and his plight. And, that's my favorite Guy Pearce film. It's my favorite Christopher Nolan film. And, that was one of those experiences where you just go into a movie and don't know anything and you just get floored. And I remember seeing that in the theater in downtown DC when that movie first came out theatrically. And I just love the confidence in the filmmaking, the writing, just the concept of that. And for me, it's a perfect film. So that is why that nudged out Edge of Tomorrow and Primer and Time Bandits and all those other time travel films. Which, by the way, Brian, you still need to check out Time Crimes.
I guess.
All right.
It's so good, Brian.
Okay.
All right. So the Soul Stone, the final stone, the stone that even within the MCU and all the advertisements for Infinity War, everyone's still speculating the location of this last Infinity Stone. So, Brian, what is your pick for the Soul Stone?
So we're talking about Soul Stone. I love to eat, and that stone's got to be buried deep inside that mac and cheese and them candied yams. Talking about some soul food.
Nice.
I was like, what the fuck?
He's so hungry right
the movie
now.
Soul Food?
Soul food.
Okay.
No, it's Soul Food from 1997.
Okay.
Directed by George Tillman, I believe, with cast of characters Vivica A. Fox, Vanessa Williams, Mekhi Phifer. It's a good film. I don't remember it that well. I do remember seeing it.
Brian loves food movies, though.
I do.
He loves Chef.
Just anything with food. I love it.
That would be a fun movie night if we just watched a bunch of of food movies and ate a bunch of food. Maybe we could just eat a bunch of food. I'm really hungry right now.
That would be awesome.
I'm hungry.
Is there a green tea muffin movie?
There should be. Stay tuned.
All right.
The date, bakedorkblog.wordpress.com.
Yeah. Shameless plug. All right. Great pick, I guess, Brian.
Yeah, of course.
All right. For real, like
Brian and Lisa running out of steam.
No Soul Man with Bernie Mac and Samuel Jackson. No Soul Man with C. Thomas Howell when he's in blackface. What the fuck? You talking about a screwed up movie?
I've never seen that film.
Are you serious? That movie is nuts. I think, if I'm not mistaken, he wants to go to college. So because of the
affirmative action
things, he takes these pills that make his skin like darkens his skin. So he's in blackface in this movie. So he gets admitted to this college as applying as an African American. That movie is fucking nuts. Oh my gosh. I'm scared to revisit that movie. Holy shit. Lisa.
Yes.
Your pick for the Soul Stone.
This is a callback to my Weekend Dork last week. It is the Billy D. Williams VHS classic that nobody knows about except for the cool kids who watch the Video Vortex films at the Alamo Drafthouse. And that is Secret Agent 00 Soul.
Yeah.
He's a secret agent. He is a detective. He is Billy D. Williams.
He's a Ghostbuster.
He's a Ghostbuster. He's part of the Scooby Gang.
Yeah.
This movie is so flippin' great. I
So
cannot
clumsy.
stop. He's very clumsy.
Yeah.
It makes him relatable because he's
He
so
almost
fucking
has
cool.
sex with his daughter.
He is, like really, really close. But I mean, I think that's
Just the tip.
that has to do how good his genes are. Like he can drop a daughter so hot that even he would fuck her.
Oh.
How Donald Trump of him.
Oh, jeez. All right.
If you have not seen it, the whole movie is available on the classic sophisticated streaming service YouTube.
Yeah.
So you can have the pleasure of watching this film. You'd be a fool to skip it.
Yeah.
It's real crazy.
Absolutely. All right. Great pick.
Thank you. Oh, and then my Jim Carrey pick
Yes.
is the extraordinarily creepy documentary Jim and Andy.
Oh, man.
Where Jim Carrey has this mass delusion that he is somehow like carrying the soul of Andy Kaufman
yeah.
during the making of Man on the Moon, and all of the people around him just have to suffer him because he's friggin' Jim Carrey.
Yeah.
And there's this one terrifying moment where, like, and he 100, like, I don't think that he's lying. I think he 100% believes that part of him was Andy Kaufman in that moment. And there's just, like, this moment where he's just like, well, then I could just, be Jesus. And I'm just like, ooh, sign me up. I would follow that. I would follow you anywhere. It's
crazy.
Jim Carrey.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a whole other level of enlightenment. B.
But his art is gorgeous.
Yes.
If you Google his visual arts, they're beautiful. And I love his movies, and I think he's a brilliant talent. But he's got a couple screws loose.
Yeah. All right. As most geniuses do.
Yeah. Too many moving parts in that brain.
Your pick for the Soul Stone.
I'm going with Blade Runner. Do androids dream of electronic sheep? The AI conversation. There are so many options to choose. In the whole AI with a soul. But for me, it all goes back to Blade Runner. Mm-hmm. And is this thing that man's created a life unto itself? Have we become God? Do our creations think independently from our programming? And I really, really love the first Blade Runner for, that initial Philip K. Dick idea, but it's more of a stylistic visual feast. Mm-hmm. But I feel like Blade Runner 2049 explores that concept even better, and and manages also to be a
Wait,
different kind of
Blade Runner 2049 is your pick, not the original?
I mean, I would say just the whole Blade Runner universe.
Gotcha. Okay.
But I do feel like that the sequel, the Villeneuve movie, furthers that question with the addition of not only the replicants, but this holographic girlfriend. And, you know, are they on an equal playing field of soulness?
Yeah.
And I am not sure I have an answer for that. But I love that addition to the struggle.
Yeah. All right. Great pick. I was struggling when it came to Soul. I was like, man, I just talked about Black Dynamite. So do I want to use that? My favorite moment ever in any of the Evil Dead trilogy is when he is in the cabin and he cut the head off the thing and the thing saying, "I'll swallow your soul, I'll swallow your soul." He pulls the shotgun out and says, "Swallow this." And you get that close up of his head exploding. That was almost on my list. But hearing you talk about Blade Runner brought up Chappie to me. And I love, while that movie does has its issues.
No, it doesn't.
I love specifically. I love the movie. We're fans here at the podcast, no secret. But the end of that film and having Yolandi, having her put into the body of a robot, and just that movie's discussion with what does it mean to be alive and or human, and how we relate to that. And so I. Thinking about Chappie and him being born into that body, and because like with Blade Runner, we don't see those characters when they first wake up and realize, am I a robot or am I real? We don't see the initial programming of whatever realization they have about themselves. But in Chappie, we get to see a personality birthed into that, and him try to find his way, and ultimately decide on is he alive or not, and also trying to extend that and bring back Yolandi as well, and because of everything she gave to him, as she treated him like he was a human being, and so that informed Chappie, and he would pay that back to her. So I don't know, I just find that sentiment, especially between Chappie and Yolandi, very sweet, and it's something that I go back to when I think about that film all the time. So that'd be my pick for a soul, I think, is Chappie. Because we haven't talked about Chappie on the podcast in a while, and I love that.
And that's a crime. It should come up every episode.
Yeah, so I'll try to do better. That's going to do it for us, ladies and gentlemen. Let us know what your picks are for in your Infinity Gauntlet regarding the Space Stone, the Mind Stone, the Reality Stone, Power, Time, and Soul Stone. Man, I guess it's time to go see Infinity War again.
Yeah,
let's go do that. In the meantime, you can follow the podcast at ItModcast on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. And you can follow Brian at the Turtle Dork on Twitter, at the Turtle Dork 1 on Instagram, and at Brian William Young on Facebook. Lisa is at Sidewalk Siren on Twitter, Instagram, and Letterboxd, and also on Twitter she is at Baked Dork. Mouth Dork is on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Letterboxd, and Untapped. And I'm Darren Smith, the Disco Dork, on all social medias. That's going to do it for us, ladies and gentlemen. Enjoy the rest of your weekend in the theater rewatching Avengers Infinity War multiple times, like us.
And our review cast should be dropping shortly.
Yeah, so we will share our feelings and our tears with you all soon. That's going to do it for us. Thank you all for listening. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, and until next time.